Imagine waking up to paradise. The warm Hawaiian sun glows across the water. Church bells echo softly. Soldiers stretch and yawn. Children play in the streets. And sailors sip coffee on deck. The Pacific Fleet, America's pride, rests peacefully in the harbor. The air smells of salt and breakfast. It feels like heaven. But within the hour, it will look like hell. Suddenly the sound of engines tears the sky open. Shadows sweep across the island as squadrons of planes appear overhead. At first, many believe it's just a drill. But then the bombs fall. Explosions erupt. Battleships are ripped apart. Smoke pours into the sky. Panic replaces peace in an instant. This is no exercise. This is no mistake. This is Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941. And what happened that morning was more than an attack. It was the spark that hurled America into World War II and changed the course of history forever. Stay with me, because this story is filled with shock, tragedy, bravery, and decisions that echo through generations. The calm before the storm. Pearl Harbor, Oahu. Early Sunday morning. Across the island, some people were getting ready for church. Others were still asleep. The Pacific Fleet sat proudly in the harbor, battleships lined in neat rows, aircraft parked closely together, and thousands of men at rest. To the sailors, this was home. To the nation, it was strength. To Japan, it was a target. For months, Japan had been expanding across Asia and the Pacific, but America stood in the way. Japanese leaders believed that if they crippled the U.S. fleet in one surprise strike, they could seize the Pacific without resistance. So, in secret, they planned one of the most daring attacks in modern history. The approach of the storm. In the early hours of December 7th, 6 Japanese aircraft carriers launched more than 350 planes into the sky. Bombers, fighters, torpedo planes. Their engines thundered over the Pacific as they headed straight for Hawaii. At 7:02 a.m., American radar operators picked up the massive formation. Their screens glowed with incoming signals. It should have been the warning that saved the day. Instead, their report was dismissed. A superior officer believed it was a group of American planes expected from the mainland. It was a fatal mistake. While soldiers in Hawaii laughed, ate breakfast, and relaxed, the storm was already on its way. The first wave, sudden destruction. At 7:48 a.m., the first wave struck. Torpedo planes skimmed low across the water, releasing their deadly cargo into the sides of battleships. Dive bombers screamed down from above, dropping explosives that split steel and shook the earth. The USS Arizona suffered the worst. A bomb pierced its deck and ignited the forward magazine. The ship exploded in a fireball so massive it lifted into the air and broke apart. In a heartbeat, more than 1,000 sailors were gone. Families on shore felt the blast in their bones. The Arizona sank where it stood, flames rising, its crew entombed inside. Nearby, the USS Oklahoma was hit by torpedoes and rolled over within minutes, trapping hundreds of men inside. The USS West Virginia was also torn apart, sinking slowly as sailors fought to escape. The harbor's calm waters turned black with oil, fire, and death. Voices of chaos. Sailors ran to their stations, some in uniform, others in pajamas. Anti-aircraft guns roared, rifles cracked at planes flying low overhead. Survivors later said the sound was deafening. Explosions, sirens, the buzz of engines, the cries of the wounded. Some men leapt into the harbor to escape the flames, only to find the water itself burning with oil. Others climbed through wreckage to rescue shipmates, dragging them from fire and twisted steel. And above it all, Japanese pilots radioed a single phrase, "Tora, Tora, Tora," meaning the surprise attack was complete. The second wave. Relentless fire. At 8:40 a.m., the second wave descended. More dive bombers and fighters unleashed destruction across the base. Hangars were torn apart, planes destroyed before they could ever take off. Civilians on the island ran for cover, hiding in homes, ditches, and fields as bullets and bombs tore through streets. One pilot managed to launch his fighter and shot down an enemy aircraft, one of the few victories that morning. Another sailor climbed into a machine gun mount and fired until his weapon jammed. Stories of courage flashed through the chaos, even as the harbor continued to burn. The toll of 2 hours. By the time the last plane left around 9:45 a.m., less than 2 hours had passed. But Pearl Harbor was devastated. Over 2,400 Americans were killed. More than 1,000 were wounded. 19 ships were sunk or damaged. Nearly 200 aircraft destroyed. The Pacific Fleet, America's pride, lay crippled. Smoke covered the island. Families wept. Survivors staggered through rubble. In 2 hours, paradise had been turned into one of the darkest mornings in U.S. history. The aftermath. America awakens. Japan believed this strike would crush American resolve. Instead, it ignited it. On December 8th, President Franklin D. Roosevelt stood before Congress. His words rang with fury and sorrow. Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy, the United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked. Within hours, Congress declared war on Japan. Days later, Germany and Italy declared war on the United States. In 1 week, the world had transformed. America, once hesitant to fight, was now fully committed to war. Pearl Harbor had pulled the nation into World War II and set the stage for battles across the globe. Today, Pearl Harbor remains sacred ground. Beneath the water, the wreck of the USS Arizona still rests, a tomb for over 1,000 men. Drops of oil rise slowly from the ship, floating to the surface like eternal black tears. Visitors stand in silence at the memorial, looking down at the sunken battleship. It is a place of remembrance, not just of destruction, but of courage, sacrifice, and the high cost of peace. Pearl Harbor reminds us how quickly the world can change. 1 morning of calm, 2 hours of chaos. Decades of consequences. December 7th, 1941, was not just an attack. It was the day America awoke, the day history shifted, and the day that proved even paradise is not safe from the storms of war. If this story moved you, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, because more legendary stories of history and humanity are on the way. And trust me, you will not want to miss what's next.